This is Fragpunk. We're here on PC with the RTX 4090 and the i9 13900K. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So this is a free-to-play Counter-Strike-esque shooter game where it actually provides a really interesting slice of life where every single round is completely unique. So take the gameplay style that you might be familiar with in regards to Counter-Strike, where it's like you pull out the knife, you run really fast, like a bullet or two will basically be the end of you if you don't, depending on where you place things, how you place things. And yeah, it's just kind of fast-paced, crazy action. But every round, there's a selection of 3 cards that your team can kind of like, I guess you would say, pay money towards or put the shard points that you have into. And then it completely changes up the experience and what can happen in the rounds to follow. So that's where it's kind of like really, really different every time you go about it, which I think is actually pretty cool. And as I said, it lends way for basically, every round being completely unique. You might have things where it's icy, so you slide along the floor. You might have a situation where, I don't know, it's apocalyptic, or there's Grim Reapers, or you die, you come back as a zombie. There's lots of different options, and it's completely unique every single time that you go in and engage with it. That's so bad. And it's really, really quite interesting from that sort of perspective here. So we're kind of like, I guess, kind of maxing out settings here with the RTX 4090, i9 13900K setup, and we're pushing like ray tracing and all that. Kind of talk about that when we get into the next round here. And you pick from a selection of characters. You've got to like there's lots of different currency options, and then you have a gun, and you have so many uses of a gun. I think we want to go for the explosive impact one. No, we don't want to go for that one, and then you get like a relic if you want to have like an extra bonus thing too, which is kind of cool. But yeah, we're targeting like 4K resolution here at uncapped. So basically video settings, borderless, 4K, there's filters, we've got menu frame rates, we've got the gameplay going unlimited just so you can see the full max of it. There's FOV options, obviously, so you can adjust the FOV. Lots and lots of settings, and then there's vertical sync and anti-tearing and stuff you could choose. And then we have it on epic settings with DLSS 4, performance target, and I've got the frame rate kind of again uncapped, but we're also targeting like the ray tracing, reflection, ambient occlusion, shadow, and global illumination. Just in case you're wondering, and we're still getting over 120 FPS here. I'm just kind of letting it go wild. Obviously, if you turn off all the ridiculous ray trace settings, it runs even higher for frame rates. But you do have to restart the game in order to apply that sort of option, so just keep that in mind, how that kind of impacts things. But I think if you're doing like performance target and all that, and you want all the ray tracing, it's basically always over 120. It's not really a problem, which is fantastic. I mean, right? Like, I think you could even cap it at probably 120. You'd be pretty happy with it. But if you turn off the ray tracing and that, it pushes a lot more. But I think the game looks kind of nice with it. Of course, it's going to be, what you're into and how you want to go about it. But this game, to me, is quite a bit of fun. I actually quite like it. It's a nice twist, as I said, on the Counter-Strike formula, where you've basically got, like, just every single round, there's some kind of weird, crazy thing going on. Large heads, small heads, no healing, vampiric things. And then theoretically, this game can change every single time you go to play it. It could be entirely different. Like, every single round will be unique, and they can add cards over time. So they could be like, oh, we're gonna add like this card, and then the game completely changes, and the meta of it completely changes. And I think that in itself kind of keeps things fresh. And there's a great selection of maps. It's a pretty visually, aesthetically pleasing game. It runs well. It looks nice. I like the selection of characters. I like the personalization. There's a good amount of different guns you can utilize, and a lot of different ways you can kind of play this game, which to me is the exciting part, is just like the strategy layering, getting to know your like lancers, which are the different characters, the hero type characters you can play as, and then kind of just going about it. Like, again, Counter-Strike type rules, right? You run fast with a knife, you're trying to plant bombs, and then they like just mix things up in a very exciting and unique kind of way because it's just always fresh. That's the hardest part with these games, is like there's many different types of these Counter-Strike-esque games. So it's harder to kind of stand out. And I've played so many of them over the years where you're just kind of like, you know, what exactly is different about this one? What is fresh about this one? And that's where I think this one really is proficient at providing something that is unique and exciting to play. Like, I've had my hands on this one since, like, the initial alpha test or whatever, and I really liked what they were doing there, and I thought it was very interesting. And then, of course, we're here, you know, quite a bit later, I guess you would say, playing the full launch, and they've added maps, and they've adjusted the levels, and they've, you know, they've done some really nice things here for quality of life improvements, and your different Lancers all have different, I guess you would say, abilities in terms of, like, you know, what they do. Like, I shoot out a little drone, or I set up little fences, and it's just neat dynamics, and it feels pretty well balanced. There are a couple cards that are a little ridiculous. There's one, like, where you're shooting, like, scythes, like, attacks across the map, which is, like, really hard to kind of counter because it goes through, like, walls. So I do think there does need to be, like, some more balancing over time, but as far as, like, a launch goes, it's a really impressive offering here. Like, I am having a lot of fun with it. The matches are relatively quick and efficient. The combat feels exciting and intense, and, you know, you feel like every second, every shot counts. Like, I'm using the controller here, which obviously, you know, PC, a lot of people using the keyboard. It feels great on the keyboard. You see people doing some crazy snappy things, and, you know, you can see the whole map setups. Like, it's a very well thought out setup game. Like, I genuinely do find this to be quite fun, and I think other people will too. If you're... Wow, we went right into that rocket launcher shot. Like, if you have been looking for something that is familiar to what you've been enjoying, but you've been wanting a little bit more of a twist, I think this one really fits the bill. Like, it genuinely, like, it looks cool, it looks flashy, it looks colorful. There's, like, cool character designs, and it's got all the usual stuff, right? Like, where it's got, like, your battle passes, and there's different currency options and whatnot. I will say, though, it does have, like, a kernel-level anti-cheat, in case that is something that, you know, bothers you and whatnot. Just thought I'd make you aware of that. But it gives you all the info, it gives you the details, it's got a clean UI, the interface is nice. This is the main mode, but there is like a deathmatch type thing, and there's like a zombie type mode, and I'm assuming over time they'll probably mix things up game mode wise. Like, they might add some new stuff, do some different things. That's what I'm saying, is like the potential for this game is really quite fascinating, from the setup of being like, you know, for now it's like this, but you might take some time off, come back, and then all of a sudden, it's essentially, let's refresh that, it's essentially a different game the next time you play it, because they have a new card, a new system. And the cards are also based on, like, how you've played and what you've unlocked for the card deck to be available. It's a lot of layers, it's a lot of fancy setups. Can we just go right for C? I feel like we'd get bombed if we go for C. I'm kind of thinking we go over this way.
Working now?
Why am I hearing someone? Sorry, it seems to reset the voice chat every single time I leave the game, which is fascinating. So probably just a bug. But it is very polished. Like, we've got lots of different, you know, setups and whatnot for, like, visual settings and fine-tuning. I mean, I'd like to dive in and show off all the little things, but mostly wanted to show it kind of maxed out, like, what you can kind of expect to get here. And then I also really love how they've handled, like, the money system in this game. It's less about, it's not about the guns and stuff. It's more about your cards, which is what it should be, right? Well, there's no one else there. I thought the rest of the team would be coming with me. I actually got destroyed. And that is really quite interesting, is it's like, it is about the cards that you have at play and the shards you earn every round. So you use the shards, and, you know, that's how you buy the cards, like you've been seeing. And then there's strategies around that too, because there's like little things on the map you might shoot, little gold things right there that was just shown. And that might be either like a little health thing, or it might be an extra shard for you, and then you might have a card that, like, lets you generate more shard income. and that's really, really quite cool. Well, that match went horribly. Let's switch into the next lobby. Alright, and for this round, we've disabled the ray tracing effects, keeping everything else the same. We've just turned off all of the ray tracing. As you can tell, we're getting like 200 and something FPS. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And, yeah, just kind of shows that, well, I don't know if it's absolutely ridiculous. Some people go even harder, right? Like, if you want to limit things, you even get a crazier frame rate. Totally up to you, but mostly just trying to get across that, like, what the ray tracing does to make it look really, really clean, and then what turning off the ray tracing does to just increase your fluidity levels. Which is exciting for players that are doing that sort of a thing, and want that kind of a profile option. Mostly, again, when I'm doing these types of reviews on PC, like, obviously we can't cover every little thing, because there's so many ridiculous finite settings, but trying to get across the best ways that you can kind of, you know, play for, like, certain presets and how you're getting the best out of things. So you can have ray tracing and still have above 120, which is cool, and then you can cap it off and really get up to, like, you know, a couple hundred FPS or so, but if you got, you know, depends on if you got a screen and everything to really take advantage of that, too, is another thing entirely altogether. Black holes. Yeah, sure, let's go for that one. But I like the dynamics of this, I like the setup of it, and it's just the flow of the game is kind of cool. That's what really excites me about this experience that other Counter-Strike-like games don't have. Like, there's obviously, like, Fortnite Ballistic, there's Valorant, there's, the Spectre Divide, like, there's many, many options like this one, and this one just kind of really caught my eye because it has that element of, it's funny, it's stylish, it's kind of cool, it's a bit quirky and weird, and it's just different. Like, a lot of shooter games are very stagnant, like, the same thing over and over and over and over again. If you like the core gameplay, that's amazing, right? But if you are sort of sitting there being like, I am kind of getting tired of it, I am kind of getting bored of it, at least this one, there genuinely is something every time you go and play it. And you're never going to know what kind of, like, different stuff is going to happen. Unbelievable. Because of those variations in the gameplay and just the shuffling of it all. I was kind of hoping that the enemy would be distracted a little bit longer from the turret there, but yeah, I guess not. That sucks. Yeah, some bad matches, yeah, some good matches, it is what it is. But yeah, I think the real potential here is just the setup. Like, they've got something that I guess could be, you know, you can play it from a casual perspective, have fun with it. There's a ranked setting if you want to take it a little bit more seriously. And you do have to put a good amount of time into the game to actually get to that level of being able to play ranked. And there are, you know, things get more intense. And then they got some fun, quirky modes. And I really think it just comes down to how popular this one becomes, how quirky they get with it, the changes they do along the way to kind of adjust. But it's fast, it's brutal, but also kind of fun and silly. Like, it's something you can get your buddies into that are like, oh, Counter-Strike usually feels too hardcore or whatever for me, or I don't like how intense that is. I think there is a level of playfulness with this one that just is kind of, like, utterly ridiculous. Like, there's an ability, for instance, if you sit down for a while, your character will essentially plop out an egg for which you can eat the egg and gain health. Like, I'm not even kidding, like, that is, you know, a genuine thing in this game, and that kind of unpredictability and randomness, because it's like, you've got cards, your enemy's got cards, and those cards completely shape the battle dynamics of what's going on, and that is just so utterly fascinating. It's just kind of like, it is ridiculous, too, because, like, you will be expecting the game to be a certain way, and then the game will, like, completely change things up for you, and then the different strategies too across all the different, you know, maps that exist in this game. Like, you're always going to be getting different level setups, different challenges. But yeah, I think they've kind of hit every mark that I was sort of hoping for in terms of, like, competitiveness, tacticalness. It's like they just know where you are. And just the style of it. Like, the maps look good, they play well, they flow well, there's a good variety of different locations, different map layouts and setups, some high grounds, some low grounds. Yeah, this match is just kind of not going in my direction, but everyone else seems to be doing fine, which is great. And then that tactical play of like bomb planning, bomb defusing, I quite like that. Sometimes there might even be 3 bomb locations that are set up, depending if the cards get played right. And then some people have different types of like blocking and just sleeping to heal. The beauty sleeping. That's the fun twist of it though, is like there's all these like kind of like dumb things, but it just sort of, they make sense. And like a developer could just wake up one day and be like, you know what would be really quirky and weird, and then put that into a card in the game. And then the entire gameplay is changed up and is dynamic in new and fresh and exciting ways, and that's so crazy to me. But like at its core, you know, it's not necessarily anything we haven't seen before, right? Like it's the Counter-Strike formula I keep mentioning. Bomb planning, bomb defusing, bomb defending, bomb attacking, teamwork, moving around the map and the environment, seeing all of the pathing, seeing all of the sounds, like, you know, character running too fast, you hear that in the environment. But then on top of that, you just layer these quirky hero-like characters where they all have their different little abilities. And then on top of that, you've got cards that will change things, big heads, small heads, colorful stuff like that. And then it's got like a fun announcer. I actually like the announcer in this too. It's a bit of a silly thing. In the earlier releases of this game too, is sort of repetitive lines, but the full release is a plethora of different things that your announcer kind of says based on what's going on. And it's playful and fun, and it's like, it is serious, but it's still like kind of wild card throwing. And I just didn't expect to necessarily be as into it as I am, and I really do genuinely have a lot of fun with this game. It's got some real quirks and stuff. I do think they need to remove the handover shard thing, because it's kind of weird, because like one person can just request it and somebody doesn't notice it, like then one person's commanding the entire team's cards, and you're like, what are you doing? And like shards for the cards, and that can be a little like, what? Yeah, a bit weird and a bit strange. But yeah, it seems, you know, gameplay-wise, everything with it being a free-to-play, you know, it's just cosmetics and stuff, nothing that impacts your gameplay. It's all evenly balanced. I haven't noticed anything that stands out too negatively. And I love the post-game of this too, or well, not, I guess I should say, there's a certain point where the game goes into like a bit of an overtime. So if it's 3-3, the game goes into OT, which is like a gunslinger round, where it's basically like a shootout. I would say in the equivalent of other sports kind of setups, where you are giving like 1 life, so it goes like 1-on-1, and then that person that wins keeps going to the next round, but they have like a loss of health, a loss of items, and it's sort of this rolling, never-ending combat setup where, you know, your health and all that like kind of decay, and it's a really epic and intense way to kind of finish things off, where it's like literally the last person standing through your roster wins the whole match. And it could be some pretty gripping competitive setups, having the game designed in that sort of a way. So if you get to the final round where it's all tied up and stuff, I do like that kind of, you know, one-on-one kind of thing, and it's a neat setup, and it's a cool way to sort of let players win and battle for that victory. I always say the shootout's the worst way to lose in like a sports thing, but in a game in the context of a shooter like this, I think they've really set it up in an entertaining and well-created sort of battle where it can just go in either direction. You have no idea what's going to happen. So, well done product. I thoroughly enjoy this shooter. You know, I definitely recommend it if you're looking for something a little different. You know, I play tons of shooter games, so I'm always on the lookout for something that stands out and feels fresh and creative and a little bit unique and different. And I think Fragpunk just really hits the mark for me. Like, honestly, it's just like a fun kind of game. Like, it's got that tactical element, it's got that level of like confusion and twists and turns, and it's got some neat little bits to it. I would just say though, it's the strong suit is just being something where, as long as you like the core gameplay, everything is different every time you go about it and every time you play this game. And no matter who you're playing with or playing against, no round will be the same, no match will be the same. Yeah, sure, you can learn the level layouts and everything like that, but that unpredictable flair just kind of keeps it interesting and exciting every time you go about it. And I hope they build upon this, I hope they expand it, because I think the potential to just keep doing crazy and crazier things here is wonderful. And I can't wait to see how the card system evolves over time in Fragpunk.